Hello, Year 7, it's me, Eldon. I've decided to come outside because it's a beautiful day and I miss you. It should be break time and you should be running around here laughing and smiling and being outside enjoying the weather, and we're all cooped up inside. Anyway, I came outside because some staff members in school have been a bit too close to me, getting right up in my face. And I'm like, stay 2 meters apart from me because you smell. I didn't say that. No, I just decided to come outside because it's a beautiful day. Now, I'm going to read you a story. That is what I'm going to do. Now, the story that I'm going to read you is one that you know already because we're studying it in English. But the idea is I've got a lovely illustrated version of some of Charles Dickens' novels. And I thought I'd read you some of them while we're all at home, just to give you a bit of context about Charles Dickens and introduce you to some of his other books. I'm going to start with Oliver Twist because it's the one that we know. Remember, this is the shortened version of the shortened version. So the one that I gave you is a bit shorter, a bit longer than this, much longer. But I'm going to read from this one because it's got nice pictures and it's just like a nice story. So listen carefully, and are you sitting comfortably? And I'm going to read you Oliver Twist from the illustrated version of Charles Dickens. Later I'll read you some different novels by him, but I'm going to start with Oliver Twist. So, Chapter 1, Nobody's Baby. Take care of him! The young mother's whisper was as soft as the swirling snow outside, her face as white as the sheet that covered her. Feebly she touched her newborn son, breathed a last sigh, and closed her eyes. She's dead! Announced Mrs. Mann, the midwife. What a nuisance! I'll have to get Mr. Bumble. Mr. Bumble was in charge of the workhouse, a cold, grim place for the homeless, without a spark of comfort or a crumb of nourishing food. He didn't care if the inmates starved, as long as his own tummy felt warm and full 3 times a day. Quickly, Mrs. Mann unclasped a gold locket from the dead woman's neck and put it round her own. Opening it, she read the name Agnes engraved inside. Another orphan brat, raged Mr. Bumble when he saw the baby. Who is he anyway? Who knows? Mrs. Mann yawned. His mother walked in yesterday off the street. She must have walked some distance. Her shoes were worn out. Good-looking girl too. He must have a name, Mr. Bumble thought hard. Well, I name all orphans alphabetically, and the last one was Smith, so he could be Twist. Oliver Twist. Ooh, Mr. Bumble, you are clever, smiled Mrs. Mann, fluttering her eyelashes at him. She wrapped Oliver in a scrap of cloth, yellowed with age. Oliver opened his mouth and roared with all the force of his baby lungs. If he'd understood he was an orphan, loved by no one, he would have cried even louder. Chapter 2. More means less. And there's a picture of Oliver in the workhouse there. By the time Oliver was 7, he was sleeping in a dormitory with 50 other starving boys. I'm so hungry, I could eat the boy in the next bed, complained a tall, strong boy with wild, angry eyes. The boy in the next bed gulped. We must have more food, he agreed hastily. Let's draw straws to decide who's going to ask Mr. Bumble. Oliver's heart was thumping as he reached out to draw his straw. He pulled it close. Oh no, he cried, it's me. Supper, as usual, was gruel, a kind of thin, watery porridge with a few lumps of gristle floating inside it. The boys lined up in front of Mr. Bumble, who stood at one end of the dining room, a huge apron tied round his fat belly, ladling a small spoonful into each boy's bowl. They returned to their tables to eat their food, packed on benches so tight as sardines, though not so plump. Their bowls never needed washing. They were licked clean in seconds until they shone like polished china. So very, very polished, very, very shiny. The boy sitting near Oliver kicked him under the table. Go on, Oliver, ask now. Shivering with fear, Oliver walked the length of the room. He clutched the bowl so tightly, his knuckles gleamed white. A terrible silence descended, pierced by Oliver's slow, echoing footsteps on the stone floor. He passed table after table of boys, their spoons laid down, their empty bowls in front of them. Each round-eyed boy stared at him expectantly as he went by. Oliver guessed what they were thinking. I'm glad it's him, and not me. At last he reached Mr. Bumble, who looked down his nose at Oliver, as though he were an insect wanting to squash. Oliver forced himself to speak. Please, sir, I want some more, he whispered. What? Shouted Mr. Bumble. Please, sir, I want some more. Mr. Bumble swelled like an evil giant. His eyes bulged with fury, and his face went purple. More? How dare you, you wicked boy! He seized Oliver, hit him with the gruel ladle and threw him into the coal cellar, locking the door. Your punishment starts here, he bellowed. Oliver heard him stump up the steps, muttering as he went. No one's ever asked for more before. Mark my words, he'll be a criminal when he grows up. That boy will hang. In the dark, sooty cellar, cobwebs stroked Oliver's face like creepy fingers, and rats scratched the walls. He crouched in a corner, pressing himself close to the wall. Its hard, cold surface felt almost protective in the lonely gloom. He stayed awake all night, dreading what would happen to him next. There he is, all sad and lonely. What's going to happen? Chapter 3, Running Away. There's a sign. Boy for sale, £5, £5. As Oliver crouched in the cellar, Mr. Bumble was nailing an advertisement to the workhouse door. The next day, Mr. Bumble dragged Oliver from the cellar. There are 2 men coming to see you, he said, so make sure you behave. Oliver watched as the first man pulled up outside the door in a donkey cart laden with soot. Whoa! He shouted, hitting the donkey on the head with a great thump from his whip. Mr. Gamfield, said Mr. Bumble, stepping out to greet him. Mr. Gamfield stared at Oliver. He's a very small boy, but I need an apprentice to climb chimneys and sweep out soot. Some of the chimneys are narrow and twisting. This brat will fit nicely. I won't go with him, I won't, cried Oliver. Don't be so insolent, said Mr. Bumble. I've heard about chimney sweeps, Oliver said. You can die up a chimney. They light a fire to make you hurry down and you get smothered in the smoke. Nonsense, said Mr. Gamfield. I just get a nice crackling blaze going and the boys come down quicker than anything. Then I'll frizzle in flames. I'm not going, replied Oliver firmly. Mr. Gamfield clambered back into his donkey cart. I don't want a rebellious boy. You've spoiled him, Mr. Bumble. With that, he whipped the donkey until it trotted away. Mr. Bumble shook Oliver until his teeth rattled. Keep your mouth shut or no one will want you, he bellowed. You've ruined that chance, don't ruin the next. Look, here it comes now. He pointed to a thin, spidery man coming up to the door. The man had a gloomy air. I am Mr. Sowerberry, he introduced himself. I arrange funerals, and I need help. He looked at Oliver closely. This boy will do, but he's so thin. He's not worth £5. I'll give you £3 for him. Take it or leave it. Mr. Bumble was disgusted, but there was nothing he could do. He was eager to see the last of Oliver. Glad you're going, Oliver. Behave, or else, he threatened. Back at his shop, Mr. Sowerberry showed Oliver a dusty basement. A dim light filtered in through the grimy pane of glass, barred with rusty iron nails. You'll sleep here, you little bag of bones. And look, there is, if you can see, there is where Oliver is been told to sleep with the coffins, if you remember when we watched that bit and read about it as well. Okay. Oliver looked around the shadowy room. It was stacked with empty coffins and planks of wood. Drapes of black cloth hung from hooks in the walls, billowing occasionally in the breeze, as though first they were breathed, and then were lifeless. The only place to sleep, a recess behind the coffins where a thin mattress was thrust, looked like a grave. And this is Noah, my apprentice, Mr. Sowerby went on, taking him to the kitchen. Noah, give Oliver his supper. Noah looked across. What work is he going to do? He asked, sulkily. He'll be a mute. He's a good-looking boy, dressed in a top hat and mourning clothes. He'll be a credit to the business. Please, sir, what's a mute? Asked Oliver. A mute walks next to the coffin at funerals and follows it into the grave. Children's funerals only. Winter's coming on. Always lots of children's funerals this time of year. Noah grinned unpleasantly when Mr. Sowerby left them alone. Here's your food. He handed Oliver the dog's bowl. Oliver was so hungry, he wolfed down the stinking scraps of fat that even the dog had left. Pig, mocked Noah. Workhouse boy. If your mother hadn't died, she'd be in prison. She must have been had. Only bad uns give birth in the workhouse. Don't you dare say anything against my mother, shouted Oliver. So, what are you going to do about it? Noah jeered. This! Oliver punched Noah hard in his flabby stomach. Noah collapsed like a crumpled balloon. Ow, he squealed. Help! Murder! Mr. Sowerby, you've lost your mind. Oliver Twist, you just wait, workhouse boy. You'll be punished for this. Do what you want, replied Oliver. I'm not staying here any longer. He raced out the door, tore down the road, his heart pounding. Don't let them come after me, he prayed. Right, I'm going to pause there because we've got to the bit that we got to earlier in the lesson. So I'm going to make another video tomorrow reading the next part of it, but enjoy that and see you soon, year 7. Bye bye.